So, the reason why rejection feels so personal when you experience it at a young age is because your world is so small. I'm about to elaborate. If you're here from the short, please note that I will be reading from my little spider diagram. Don't look at it too closely. So I might be looking away from the camera, but please don't just listen. I struggle with making eye contact anyways, so bear with me. So because the world of a child, especially like newborn baby to around the age of 6, it mostly comprises of the mom, the dad, whichever primary caregiver is there, whichever regulated, present, loving adult is there, who is providing stability and calm and engagement with the baby. And sometimes siblings, so 2 primary caregivers, siblings, and that's how it usually goes. And then the baby is solely just counting on their physical needs being met, and then their emotional needs being met by the people in their immediate surroundings. And when one of those emotional or physical needs are not met, the baby can be in distress, and that distress becomes integrated if it's not met, and it's not met for a long time, where there's repeated instances where the child's needs are just ignored, seemingly ignored, neglected, or just like a pure absence of loving, present, regulated caregivers. When that occurs, it can put not just a strain on your body and your nervous system just from that stress of I'm in distress, my needs are met, but it also becomes ingrained into your identity that you are not lovable, that you are not seen, that you are not heard, that you are not valued, that nobody sees me, nobody's responding to me. And so it becomes a part of how you see yourself. And so you might be an adult now and you're thinking, why don't I feel comfortable asking for help? Why don't I, go for the opportunities that I want? Why don't I have healthy relationships? Why don't I communicate better in my friendships? Why do I neglect my own needs in favor of helping other people? Yay, people pleasers unite. Why? I don't know, a plethora of things. And all of those boil down to, it's not just a low self-esteem, it's this deeply ingrained sense of grief and attempt to rectify this sense of unlovedness and unlovability. And so our identity becomes centered around securing the connection that we couldn't get in early childhood. And it also becomes centered around grieving. So it's like this prolonged wound, this prolonged deep grief that it almost seems like it cannot heal. But we do talk about how to heal it right here, okay? So stick around. So how it usually plays out is that when the baby is trying to get their emotional needs met, so maybe they're in distress, or they're just overwhelmed or overstimulated, or there's just a little too much going on, and they'll let out a cry for distress or a bid for connection. Maybe it's like a pleasant play. Maybe they smile, or they touch and reach out to a caregiver or make eye contact, and that bid for connection isn't met or isn't responded to by the adult in their life. They conclude, oh, maybe I did something wrong, or maybe there's something wrong with me, or I am unloved. Or because your world is so small that there's only a few, it's not even like you're even doing reasoning, but there's only a few explanations for why that need isn't being met. And because babies are so self-centric, they can't see anything else other than my needs aren't being met. I'm reaching out to my primary caregiver, my need isn't being met, there's something wrong with me. And there's this fear that sets in, there's this distress that sets in, there is this insecurity, this I'm trying to find different words, but I think you get the point. And so for a lot of people, the underlying message becomes this narrative of shame, a narrative of unlovability, this inner narrative of grief. This is not just if it happens on like one occasion or two occasions and mom's busy, can't tend to the baby right now, but we'll pick them up and reassure them, reestablish that connection. This is over a long period of time. But the baby can't really conceptualize that there are other reasons why this disconnect, this emotional disconnect might be happening. And so the baby internalizes it as it must have something to do with me. And so because their world is so small, like that's how it affects them. Okay. Now, you and I know as adults that there are so many influences that are impacting how you show up in relationships. There's your own personal self-esteem. I wrote a list of things. So your personal self-esteem, your mental health. So maybe there's maybe struggles with depression, anxiety, or, broader mental health struggles. Maybe there's financial struggles that are happening. Maybe you work in a difficult work environment. Maybe there's racial issues that are happening. Maybe you're having difficult relationships, difficulty in your personal relationships. Maybe you're socially isolated and you don't have enough emotional support in your immediate surroundings. Or you don't have a support system. Maybe you've had a recent traumatic event. Maybe you've had prolonged traumatic experiences that are unprocessed or haven't been dealt with. Maybe there's environmental instability, housing instability. There could be an innumerable amount of circumstances, hypothetical circumstances that just intrinsically affect your ability to connect at any given time. These different things, these different circumstances all cause stress to some degree. And if you don't have an adequate way of dealing with these things, it's incredibly hard to show up being calm, available, regulated, loving, joyful, and present. Ultimately, just present in the present moment and able to be aware of the growing little nibbling baby. Nibbling is that's relating to siblings. Anyways, but the growing little being that is in front of you, it's incredibly difficult to come out of your thoughts and genuinely leave them outside of that interaction that you're having with your baby, being present, regulated, and calm and able to engage. And so for the adult who experiences maybe inconsistent communication or troubles with connecting to a loved one, they understand, oh, maybe they're going through a rough time. Maybe something happened at work. Maybe they're delayed. Maybe they haven't seen their phone. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. We're able to reason and have reason and hypothesize with a level of objectivity, because we know that miscommunication happens, disconnection happens, and oftentimes it's not even personal. So because we have this broader perspective, we're able to not internalize perceived rejection or perceived neglect, because we are able to explain it. If we're not able to explain it ourselves, we're able to engage that person in a conversation. We're able to just have dynamic thought and reasoning and problem solving and ideas about how to strengthen the relationship. We're able to articulate our own relational needs, and if the other person is interested in reciprocating, they're able to meet those needs. You have the agency to walk away if that person isn't able to meet those needs. It's not complete dependence on one individual in a very like small space, in a very like, you know, the frame of reference is wider, which permits for more mental flexibility. Now, again, from baby's perspective, who is trying to make sense of a very big and new world, that level of instability, disconnection, as it becomes embedded into their identity, they grow up in like to become these adults who just never feel secure in spaces, who always feel like they're somehow on the outside, feeling like they need to earn connection, or going the opposite way where they just avoid connection altogether, you know, fearing that it's going to lead to disappointment and heartbreak, just general being suspicious of people, especially people who are kind and nice and emotionally available. Yeah, and so there's these certain dynamics that play out in your adult relationships as a child who experienced neglect or rejection in perceived rejection in early childhood, and you're trying to understand now, why do I behave like this? And mostly it boils down to attachment, whether you felt secure and emotionally tended to and well loved in your early childhood relationships, whether you felt seen, validated, affirmed, protected. I have like a list of like my conceptualization of love, like the basics. This is not like a comprehensive, whether you felt encouraged, whether you had someone who was patient and present with you. And yeah, so if those things didn't happen, it's highly likely that you are still struggling with building self-confidence. You're still struggling with your self-esteem, and maybe you've been doing personal development for a really long time and you still can't get to the fundamental wound. You still can't get to the source of this kind of unbelonging, this kind of perpetual grief that you've been experiencing. And I share a lot about it on this channel, about how to heal that grief. But I want to tell you right now that if you can begin with working on, I have like a list of 5 areas, but I won't get into all of them in this video. But the first one is trying to work on connection. So if you don't feel comfortable connecting with people, you can start by connecting with God. You can speak to God in your quiet time. You can start by like trying to go outside and maybe not doing like social engagement. Maybe you go sit at a library with your headphones on and just be around people. Or, you know, and then maybe to like get a little bit more out of your comfort zone, maybe you like leave your headphones on and you go to like a park and just chill. Or maybe you do like a fun activity that you haven't considered doing before, that you have been considering doing, but has felt like a little bit scary because like people. And then you can just brainstorm about other ways of creating more connection in your life. The second one is psychoeducation. Learn, like including the way that you're watching this podcast, just keep doing research about how the lack of secure attachment, the lack of a present, loving caregiver impacts the developing mind. There are a set of predictable outcomes that come from experiencing neglect in early childhood. And there's a ton of books. I do recommend, there are some books that I continue to bring up and recommend. I won't get into that in this video, but literally even just the quickest Google search, you'll start to find resources. One of them being Complex PTSD, Healing Complex PTSD by Pete Walker from Surviving to Thriving, or How to Heal Developmental Trauma. I forget the name of the author, but just start doing your research. Or there's another one called Mother Hunger. Again, I forget the name of the author, but just start learning about the impact of neglect, rejection, or abandonment in early childhood, and you'll realize that a lot of these behaviors that are playing out in your adult relationships, really, they didn't start with you, and they're not your fault. They're just predictable responses to that instability from early childhood. Okay. The third one, find ways to express yourself. For me, I have a bunch of different creative outlets, creative outlets that I like to engage in from time to time. And I found that there's so much like therapeutic relief that comes from creativity, that it's beyond being able to articulate. Like if you've tried talk therapy and it's not something that has yielded a lot of results for you, there's something that happens when you engage in the creative process that allows the more active part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, all the busy parts to just kind of quiet down. And that calm that sets in, for me, it allows the processing of difficult emotions and grief and confusion that's been stored in my mind to be articulated and to be transmuted, for it to change form. There's this objectivity that happens as you're engaged in the creative process that I have found really healing, especially when I was a teenager. And there were so many things that were just beyond my understanding. And I would just write rage poems, not rage poems, but just poems that would express these really complex and tangled up emotions. And I just found just being able to express those things really helped me a lot. And then I also found connection through being able to express myself, that other people were also experiencing these things, and I was just articulating a shared experience through my poetry and through my other creative outlets. Okay, the fourth thing that I will leave with you today is try to find ways to start being kind to yourself and start challenging the narratives that rejection has created in your mind. So don't believe everything you think. When you experience rejection in early childhood, it can directly lead to a very self-critical internal dialogue, because you basically go into this habit of policing yourself to try to secure love. So there's this inner, whether it's malicious or a misguided defense mechanism, it continues to berate you every time you do something wrong. Every time you feel like you are doing something that could jeopardize your relationships or your chances of connection. And so, one, you can challenge those inner narratives and just say, you can talk to yourself and be like, actually, I don't believe that that everybody hates me, or I don't believe that I've done something irreparably wrong. I've made a mistake. Everyone's allowed to make mistakes, and it's okay. As well as just being the compassionate, loving presence that you never had. Part of healing from that lack of presence, that lack of validation and affirmation, is you being that present, loving caregiver to yourself as an adult that you wish you could have had as a child. There are more things, and I do talk about them just more extensively in other videos. So if you are curious about that, please feel free to go ahead and check those out, subscribe, and you will definitely see me in future videos. If you like this video, share it if you think somebody else might benefit from hearing this. And I am so grateful that you are here on this planet, that you have survived this long, that you're still trying to figure out how to heal. I appreciate you for doing this work. If you've gotten to the end of this video, it matches. You matter. I'm rooting for you. Keep going. Okay, I will see you soon.